OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to another installment of the Monday Night Raw review. I'm not wasting any time with this because I literally have 12% left of battery on my phone to try and film this before I go to sleep. So let's get straight into it. The show starts off with us seeing CM Punk, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Pure Fusion Collective, Damage Control, and the Terror Twins all arriving to Monday Night Raw, arriving to the arena. The show actually kicks off with Randy Orton coming out to the crowd to cut a promo. He starts welcoming everybody to Monday Night Raw, and he says he wants to take a minute to let it all soak in. He says next time that he'll be doing that introduction, he will be a World Heavyweight Champion. And he said, you know, it's all that Bash in Berlin had to be about, but unfortunately Gunther decided to make it personal, and it gives me even more reason to beat him, and if you talk about my family, you're going to get hit with an RKO. And Gunther comes out and he says the only thing that Randy needs to do is shut up and listen to what he has to say. And he's like, you want to know what you're celebrating? Like, why is it that you're celebrating the RKO? And he goes, celebrate it because it's the only thing you'll be celebrating, and it's the only thing that you have achieved, and, you know, that's what's made this very personal. And he calls the crowd low lifes for the USA chants that the crowd gives, which is just so stupid. I just don't understand why like USA chants are like acceptable within wrestling. It's like the what chant as well. The what chant came out through this and it really annoyed me because it's like, it's Randy fucking Orton, for God's sake. Like, why would you do that? Anyway, there's a moment where Gunther and Randy Orton are kind of looking back and forth at each other, and then Ludwig ends up running in behind Randy Orton and actually chop blocks his knee, taking him out from behind, and then Randy ends up going for Gunther, but they're just very much leaving Randy on the mat. But this does get pushed back into the show later on in the main event. We saw the recap of what happened with Sheamus and Ludwig last week, and then Jackie was catching up with Sheamus before his match and was asking about how his hand is doing after Pete went ahead and hurt his hand. And he said, you know, my hand is smashed by Pete, but this will be retribution, and asks everybody if they're ready for a banger. So the first match of the night is Sheamus taking on Pete Dunne. Now, I do not feel like this is the end of this feud. I feel like we are going to see this come up time and time again. Match starts with a lot of blows between the two of them. Pete is very much in control of this match, and he tries to overpower Sheamus. He ends up hitting Sheamus with some joint manipulation, and we see a really nice variation of the Irish curse backbreaker coming in from Sheamus. Pete ends up being hurled into the announce table, and he kicks Sheamus into the ring steps, and then we have a commercial break. But when we come back, Pete is very much in control, and he unloads on Sheamus. Sheamus sets up the 10 beats, and then Pete ends up attacking him, and then he hits 10 beats, but Sheamus reverses it and hits 10 beats onto Pete Dunne, and then Pete hits a really nice sit-out powerbomb. Pete ends up kicking Sheamus's hand into the ring post, but Sheamus overpowers and wins this match. That's why I say I feel like this isn't over. I feel like we're going to be seeing more of this coming up. We had a couple of backstage segments, so I'm quickly just going to talk about those. We had a New Day segment backstage. Obviously, Odyssey Jones has been brought in by Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods is a little bit bothered by it. And Kofi's like, look, I know you've been off for the last couple of weeks. I just really want to know what's going on. Xavier's like, I kind of wish you had have just communicated this with me, you know, for Odyssey to come in. And Kofi's like, look, you remember how it was when we were breaking into the industry? We needed veterans like us now to help out the younger talent, and that's what we're doing here. I want to help them out. We're not trying to replace Big E, like, it's absolutely fine. Then we have a Bron Breakker video package. And this follows with a Maxine and Ivy Nile backstage recap from last week. This was before the match that they had. And then we saw Ivy turning on Maxine last week. And then we end up seeing Ivy doing some really nice bicep curls. And the entirety of American Made come in and start talking to Ivy to hype her up for her match. And Ivy says that Maxine got what was coming to her. Now, we go quickly to this match. And when I say quickly, it's because there was no conclusion to this match. So we have the match between Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. Maxine's coming in super hot. She's fired up. She has a really nice drop kick and a fisherman's suplex onto Ivy Nile. She throws Ivy over the table, but then Ivy ends up countering back with a big boot and attacks Maxine before we have the Wyatt Six music hit. And then Maxine ends up leaving the ring, obviously through the smoke and the fog, because obviously, you know, Wyatt Six isn't after Maxine Dupree. And we see Sister Abigail hop into the ring, and then American Made come out to come and help Ivy Nile. The Wyatt Six and American Made end up brawling, and then Uncle Howdy hits Chad with a Sister Abigail. So this entirety of the Alpha Academy / American Made / Wyatt Six is not over. We have a Terra Twins promo package, and Damien and Rhea are talking about how the entirety of Judgment Day tried to take them out, but they stood their ground. And they say, Liv and Dom, your days are numbered. There's nowhere to hide because Damien and I were the real ones that were keeping you safe. And Rhea calls Liv a discount Rhea Ripley, which I highly agree with. Then CM Punk comes out with a strap around his neck, and he is super excited to talk to the crowd in Florida. He says that he's got a lot to get to and he hasn't had a lot of sleep, but he's got some really exciting news. He was talking about his experience at the Fanatics Festival that had happened over the weekend, and someone had asked him why he's on a hot streak, and he talks about how he really enjoys the fans. He's loving the fans. He's missed them for a long time. And he says, it's fans like you that drive me to do what I do and take the time. It's the love. These bracelets are like the ones that Drew took off me. You know, they don't have that same level of value, but they very much, you know, the fans have gone to try to make up for the fact that the original bracelet is no longer with CM Punk. And then we end up flipping onto the hatred side of things, and CM Punk starts talking about how, you know, Drew says that he hates Punk, and he's washed his hands clean of him since SummerSlam, but this has just made it even more personal. I think he's obsessed with me, which brings me to the news. I made Drew a bracelet, and obviously shows off the strap, and he says, at Bash in Berlin, I want to have a strap match so I can whip this bitch, and he starts saying how he's going to leave Drew with some lasting scars. Drew comes out, and he says, you know, I've been thinking about what I'm going to do to you all week. You embarrassed me last week, and asks if CM Punk has started drinking, but he says that he accepts the strap match challenge, and he says, if this is what's happening next week, how about we give everybody a teaser? Let's put on a show. And then CM Punk is like, I'll give you the strap if you give me the bracelet, which obviously Drew's like, I'm not giving you the bracelet. And then CM Punk basically says that you're attached to me in Berlin. So it's super cool that we're getting a second match between these two. I've loved this feud this entire year. So the fact that it's a stipulation match, which is a strap match, which we don't normally get to see those kind of matches, really adds to the entire thing. We head backstage again where the Judgment Day is cutting a counter promo to the Terra Twins, and I just kind of don't really vibe with the Judgment Day anymore. It's so hard. I think it's just hard for me because I love Rhea, and I love Damien, and I love Finn, and I'm okay with Dom, and I like JD, and I like Carlito, but obviously I don't like the entirety of the Judgment Day. But that's fine. That is what these storylines are meant to do. These storylines are meant to make you not like a group that you suddenly, you used to like, but that's okay. What's also okay was the 6-man tag match that we had between the New Day and Final Testament. This was a super, super quick match, honestly. I think the wrong team won as well too, but that's fine. Kofi and Karrion are brawling, and then Karrion ends up overturning the match. AOP dominate, and then after the commercial break, the Final Testament are in control. Odyssey Jones hits a double clothesline onto AOP, and then the New Day use their teamwork to their advantage and secure the win. I think Odyssey Jones got the win, but I would have liked to see it be the Final Testament, but that's fine. So we had some more stuff going on backstage before we make our way back to the ring. So Damien and Rhea had a backstage segment where they were talking about how they are obviously going to beat down on Liv and Dom at Bash in Berlin. And then we had an Alpha and Hawaii video package. Obviously, he passed away last week. My thoughts and prayers and condolences are with the family. So we got to see the same video package that we had on Friday Night SmackDown for Alpha. We saw that Robbie Lawler, who's like a former UFC welterweight. I could be wrong. I don't watch the UFC. My fiance does. He's very into the UFC. I'll ask him when he gets back. He's gone out for the evening. But anyway, that's not the point. I'll ask him who Robbie Lawler is when he gets home, and then I'll be able to tell you guys on the podcast. And there's a moment that The Miz has with Adam Pearce backstage before his match. Now, there's a match that's going to be happening between him and Bronson Reed. Adam's like, I don't know why you're trying to do this. Like, Seth and Truth are both out because of this guy. Like, he doesn't care about how much the fines are. Why are you trying to do this? And Miz is like, look, I have to. And he gets squashed pretty much in like 5 minutes. So they end up brawling in their match, and then Bronson ends up crushing Miz, but Miz ends up hitting Bronson with a chair, but this is nothing for the big guy. And then he grabs a whole bunch of weapons, and Bronson ends up intercepting some kendo stick attacks, and then he ends up slamming Miz into the trash can. He sits on a chair while he's holding down Miz with his foot. We see a tornado DDT onto a chair coming in from the Miz to Bronson Reed, and then Miz ends up getting slammed into the table by Bronson. submission, followed by a Death Valley driver and a tsunami to secure the win. We did not see 6 more tsunamis come in after this, but what we did see is a returning Braun Strowman. So it looks like we're going to be getting a match of monsters. We're going to be getting Bronson versus Braun, and I'm so excited for this. I love Braun Strowman. And I like that they're using him sparingly as well too. He's not always on TV, which I think is the best way to use him. Jackie's catching up with Sheamus after his win, and Sheamus is like, look, fair play to Pete, you know, he did what he did, but I still feel like it's not over. And then Ludwig comes in and says, once I'm done with Randy, we're going to settle this once and for all. That is because Randy Orton goes up against Ludwig Kaiser in the main event, and I'm so excited. Braun is catching up with Kathy, and she's asking, obviously, how everything's been going as the Intercontinental Champion, and Braun starts saying that apparently Adam has got, like, this tournament starting next week to find me a new contender for the IC title. He's like, look, Adam can't stand that I'm progressing through this roster at a rapid rate. It's not my fault the dogs are barking in every city and that I'm a genetic freak. And I was like, just, you know, doing my best dog impression. Speaking of dogs, Dom Mysterio goes up against Damian Priest. This match literally came to nothing. I kid you not. Judgment Day comes out to attack Damian from behind because earlier in the evening, Rhea was talking to Damian about how she feels like it is like a trap. So in the promos backstage, I forgot to mention that they were talking about how they're going to leave their crews behind so that Damian and Dom can just have an individual match. But we all know the Judgment Day. We all know they can't do that. So they came out and started attacking Damian from behind, and then Damian ends up getting upper-handed, but Rhea comes through. She headbutts Dom. She clears the table. She looks like she's setting up for the Riptide, and then Rhea ends up getting attacked by Liv, and then the Judgment Day end up attacking both members of the Terror Twins inside of the ring, so it looks like they are not getting that upper hand. I feel like they are winning at Bash in Berlin though, but it's okay. Judgment Day are talking backstage. They cut a promo talking about how that was a sample of what you guys will be getting at Bash in Berlin. Then we have a women's tag match recap from last week, and now this is followed by the 3-team women's tag team match. So we had Damage Control taking on Alba and Isla taking on a Pure Fusion Collective. How do we feel about the name a week on? Because I'm not a fan of it. What I am a fan of is, first of all, what Damage Control was wearing, and secondly, the fact that they were the real backbones and the MVPs of this match, because they were very much present during this entire match. They looked incredibly strong. When Shayna and Zoe came in, they looked really good as well too. I just don't really like the fact that the champions kind of just sit outside and not do anything, and then they capitalize at the end. Because that's exactly what happened here. Obviously, Damage Control were doing their thing. And then the Witches just come in at the end of the match to retain. So Alba and Isla won the match. Not surprised, but just a little disappointed. Jay and Jackie are catching up backstage, and Jackie asks how Sammy's doing. Obviously, he's taken some time away after the match he had last week to, you know, just recover. But a lot of people are talking about how they might reunite down the line. He's like, look, Sammy's gone away to clear his head, and I'm in the tournament for the IC title. I'm excited for that, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Sadly, this is actually Pat McAfee's last Raw for a while. I think he's going away to do some college football, so they actually had a really nice video recap package, and you could tell that he didn't know it was happening either, and it was just a whole bunch of his really awesome moments from 2024. I can't believe that we're in August, and I can't believe that we've had Pat McAfee for so long. I'm going to miss him on commentary with Michael Cole, but I know that he'll come back at some point in time. As I said earlier, you can tell that he got choked up by the video as well too, which was super sweet that WWE did that, because Pat McAfee is a real one. Speaking of real ones, Randy Orton takes on Ludwig Kaiser in the main event. Now, this was a shorter match, but a lot of action was packed into this. So they start locking up at the beginning and jostling for position, and then Randy ends up headlocking Ludwig, and Ludwig attacks Randy. We end up seeing Randy hit a fall-away slam, followed by an uppercut, and then we see Ludwig uppercutting Randy as well too. Randy hits a knife-edge chop and then ends up bouncing Ludwig, but then Gunther gets involved outside of the ring and ends up being ringside for the rest of the match. Ludwig slams Randy into a table and into the steps, and he does the move where he runs around the ring to end up drop kicking the opponent into the ring steps. So he did that to Randy. We had a commercial break, and when we come back, Ludwig is still very much in control. He's being told what to do by Gunther outside of the ring. He's attacking Randy's knee. He focused on that earlier in the evening, and he continues to focus on that during the match. He's trying to damage it so much so to the point where it's still damaged for Gunther next week when it comes to their match at Bash in Berlin. And then we end up seeing Orton come through, and he ends up sending Kaiser flying. He powers up, but then we see Ludwig punishing Orton, and then Randy ends up slamming Ludwig into the table 4 times, followed by a power slam and a suplex as well too. Sets up that DDT, sets up the RKO, and secures the win. Randy Orton wins against Ludwig Kaiser. Little disappointed, but it's okay. My boy Ludwig will still find his way back. And then Gunther and Randy pretty much just brawl at the end of the match. Just it is what it is. I feel like this is what Triple H likes to do, and I don't mind it because I understand why it's happening. Like, these two just don't like each other. They did the same thing with Gunther and Damien, and it made the match feel really special to me, so I'm hoping that it does the same thing at Bash in Berlin. And that brings us to the end of this week's Monday Night Raw review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you go ahead and show that you liked it by liking the video, as well as commenting something down below that you enjoyed about Raw this week. While you're there too, you should absolutely subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when we upload future videos, as well as checking out the description down below. Those are all the links to where you can find Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as all of our personal social medias. There's a bit of dust flying in the air, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on the channel. As always, you've got your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in from Reese this week, as well as the podcast on Thursday, and the SmackDown review will be coming in this weekend as well too. Lots of content to keep you guys busy, and honestly, we would not have it any other way. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye guys.